So let's go to the next thing you want to know, and then we'll dive deeper.
So if you can explain to me how you just automated the process from purchase to fulfillment and then your approach to pricing.
Sure.
That would be great.
So I touched on the automation a bit before. Basically, we're as automated as we can be while not spending a lot of time coding or developing some fancy system. So the the inventory management within the Square e-commerce site is basically automated because it's built in and does it on its own. The auto reply email that people get, that's automated. Then it gets manual in terms of, well, if people didn't send their copy, or when they do send the copy, sometimes they might have a question or we do approve it. So there's some that piece of it is manual. And then Emily's manually adding it to spreadsheets and I'm manually adding it to the newsletter. So it's partially automated, partially manual. Pricing, I think, there's a lot more, I think, for us to talk about in terms of pricing goes and how I chose to price my ads. So let me give some quick backstory on that. I launched the ads in my newsletter about 2 years ago. For the first 4 years I wrote my newsletter, I was very skeptical and anti-ads. I didn't think I thought they were bad for the audience. I thought it would annoy people. I thought it was misaligned incentives. And there was a woman who was a longtime subscriber to my newsletter, and she reached out to me, and she was a therapist who specialized in working with creative people. And she said, hey, she had recently run a classified ad in Ann Friedman's newsletter. She said it was great. She's like, I got all these people, potential clients. They were the exact kind of people I wanted to reach. She was like, it's the best marketing I've ever done. And she knew that I didn't offer ads, but she's like, do you know anyone else that might have any other newsletters that might offer something similar with a similar audience? And it was weird because I was sitting here thinking about it and I was like, I have the exact audience she wants to reach. I like helping my audience, but I'm not offering it because I have this thing in my mind that like ads are bad or not helpful or whatever.
Yeah.
And it really was eye-opening because I thought about not only would this be helping her and she's a part of my audience, but she's offering basically therapy to creative people, which is a very helpful, generous, even if it's paid, like it's a helpful thing that a lot of my audience would probably value from knowing that she exists as well. So I was like, why am I not? And it would help me because I could theoretically get paid. So for the first time, it was like this really eye-opening thing where I was like, this is going to help the ad buyer. It's going to help my subscribers and it would help me. And I just completely ruled it out for basically no reason, right? Just an assumption that like ads are bad. So I decided to survey my audience, right? I sent them I think it was like a 1 or 2 question survey, and basically was like, hey, if I were to launch ads, would you be interested in, as one multiple choice question, would you be interested in seeing them? Would you potentially want to buy one? Or no, you hate ads, don't include them. 90% of people who responded said either they would want to see the ads or they'd potentially be interested in buying one. Only 10% were like, no ads. I was shocked. I was like, okay, I've been way wrong about all of this, right? So then I decided to try the ads. And that the other thing I realized was, now in retrospect, it seems genius, but I completely stumbled onto it. I realized I had 40 or 50 people who had said they might be interested in buying them. I basically had generated 40 or 50 ad buyer leads from my audience without having launched or pitching or doing anything. So I started reaching out to them before I even officially launched it and said, hey, I think I'm going to do this. Do you want to buy an ad? And basically wound up selling out multiple issues before I even launched. Now, when I did that, I had to figure out how many am I going to offer? What am I going to sell it for? And I used to work in the comedy industry and I used to produce stand-up comedy shows. And there's an analogy that I use, or this influenced my decision of how to price and what inventory to make available. If you're doing a comedy show, and this is true for anything, but if you're launching, let's say, a new weekly stand-up comedy show, and you think that you can sell 70 tickets on a regular basis or whatever, and your options are a theater that holds 100 or a theater that holds 50. Most people would go, the instinct would be, I'm going to go theater that holds 100 because I can sell 70. So I want to make as much money as I can, right? I want to be able to sell 70.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to take a 50 theater that's a little too small and then only sell 50. But the truth is you want the 50. Because what you're doing when you're launching a new show or launching something like that is you want it to seem like a hot property. You want the buzz around it. So having 20 people a week who can't get tickets, all of a sudden everyone's like, have you seen that new show? That's like a hot new thing. And that builds it. It creates a perception of a sort of hot product, right? Even though you only sold 50 tickets instead of 70 in the bigger place. If you sell 70, everyone's like, oh, you can always get tickets to that show. There's 30 empty seats. No one's talking about, oh, did you see that new hot show? Even though you sold more tickets than the smaller venue, right? So
Right.
I had that in my mind. And I was like, when I launch these ads, I want them to be perceived as a hot product, an in-demand product. So I'm going to do two things to make that happen. Three things. One is I'm going to limit availability. So I was like, I'm only going to offer 5 per issue, not going to sell like however many people want to buy it. Because what I actually wanted was I wanted to be able to say they're sold out, they're sold out, they're sold out, they're sold out, right? That's what I wanted, less so than the money in the short term. I wanted the perception of, especially when launching this, right? Because who knows? And I didn't really know how successful they would be or not, but I wanted it to be sold out. So I limited the inventory. I also, because I wanted it to be sold out, was like, I don't exactly know where I should price this, but I'm going to aim low. I want it to be a no-brainer, right? So I had 15,000 or 17,000 subscribers at that time. I priced those ads at $50 because in my own mind, I was like, I don't know how they're going to perform. I don't know whatever, but at $50, that seems sort of like a no-brainer. Again, I was just trying to get sold out. And my belief was,
Mm-hmm.
and then the third thing I did was reaching out to those people who had said they were interested before I even launched it. So that allowed me to, when I officially launched it and said, hey, I'm selling ads now, blah, blah, blah. And people would go to the Square e-commerce store. They would see multiple issues were already sold out. They would see that it was only $50 and it would be perceived as a hot product. Their first perception of my ads are those must be valuable and those are in demand. And if I'm even thinking about buying one, I better buy one now, or I'm not going to be able to, or whatever, right? It also allowed me when I was talking to them to be able to say, as it went, every issue sold out since I launched 2 months ago. To this day, almost every issue I've ever done has sold out, right? It's also always easier to, and this is when I went into it thinking, right? But, knowing if they deliver, if they work okay, good value, I'm going to be able to raise the price, right? And that's what I've done. So they started at 50. I went to 65 eventually. I went to 80. I went to 100. I went to 200. I'm getting ready to go up again, probably to 300. We'll see. Continuing to sell out. Now, the ads have also delivered. A key point. If the ads weren't working, at some point, you're not going to be, perception's going to change because people that buy are going to not buy again and go, this wasn't worth it. But so obviously the ads have to work, but that's how I rolled it out. That's why I limited the inventory. The other thing that happened is a year or so after I was running the ads, I launched the daily, because originally it was just the weekly Sunday version. When I launched the daily version, I then realized that when you buy, you get the Sunday and a daily, because the daily drove a lot of clicks and really made the product way more valuable. Well, there's only 5 days a week. So I guess I could put multiple ads in daily newsletters. Theoretically, I could do 2 ads, whatever, but I didn't really want to do that. So that also limits me to 5 for the moment. But I think that scarcity, that urgency, that perception is very helpful. And I would recommend it, especially early on with ad things, because I think a lot of people think about, how much could I sell these for? And I think early on, there's probably more value to selling out and creating the perception that it's a hot product than just getting as much as you possibly can. I didn't want to launch ads and have people see like people weren't buying them. I didn't think that was a great way to sort of establish the tone. That said, on the flip side, my ads are probably underpriced. You tell me, because you've done a lot of ad buying all over the place. So, you tell, I'm curious, what has been your perception of, you bought ads in lots of newsletters and lots of other things. How do you think about pricing and market and all that as a buyer?
Well, I would say that your ads are still greatly underpriced, even if you're going to increase them to $300, because I've done ad buys with other newsletters and other placements, and they're charging maybe 5 times more. And in terms of click-throughs and actual users and visits to the website, they pale in comparison to what I was getting from running ads in your
Thank you.
So you have a very engaged audience.
And it's funny because I think I've spoiled myself, because I've also bought ads in lots of places to promote my newsletter. And like every time I'm like, I kind of can't believe, I'm like, wait a minute, like I just paid X amount. Like I wish, and what's funny is this is also like an interesting metric, like what I'm about to say. Like I wish I could buy ads in my own newsletter, right? Which, if you feel like that about your newsletter, that's probably a pretty good sign in terms of assessing value, right? I wish I could find a newsletter where I could get the results that people get from mine. And, because price is such a variable. I will say just in general that when I was first thinking about it or sort of measuring results, just in my own mind, I was kind of like, well, because everybody has different goals, right? So some people are just promoting a free newsletter. Some people are selling a product, a service. Some people it's a $10 product. Some people it's a $1,000 product, right? So, in terms of what's worth it, like I just kind of thought like, look, if I can get people clicks at $1 a click, that's pretty good. Kind of across the board, regardless for what they're doing. Like, for me, myself, if I could get clicks, as long as they're relevant, good, legitimate clicks, for $1 a click, like that's pretty good. So, so right now, like if I'm at $200 and it's not unusual for people to get 250, 300 clicks, like that's really good. Like just as a general benchmark. And again, it depends on audience and who you're selling to. And, and I haven't done a lot of big brand stuff either. I've sold mostly to sort of people that are in my audience. So by no means am I saying, again, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, because I do think I'm underpriced. But for people that are like, well, where do I start, or what should I think about pricing? If you're doing $1, $1 click's pretty good. People are going to be pretty happy with that in general. Cool.